Welcome back, everybody. We're here still playing Everlasting Summer. Trickster here, and let's see what happens. Together with the camp leader, I went towards our cabin. I tried to think of why Shirik go to the old camp. He is interested in robots and cybernetics, not scary stories and ghosts. What does the boot have to do with that? Do with it? That it? What? I remember how I decided to wait until something extraordinary would happen. Then I realized this is it. Okay, I think I'll take a walk before bed. Just not a long one. Okay. When I reached the square, I understood that hanging around the forest or something other strange place may not be that scary. But doing so in the dark, I didn't want to return to Olga's cabin, but I had to find a flashlight. For instance, there's one in the infirmary. I was glad I didn't spend my whole time there reading that fashion magazine. The flashlight was found quickly. In a few minutes, I was again standing at the square, pulling myself together. I just had to make the final decision before I entered the forest. Moving past the pioneer's cabin, down the forest path towards the abandoned camp. I set forth. Electronic told me that the old building was built immediately after the war. It looked like a kindergarten or like a barracks I expected, and definitely could hold fewer pioneers than today's camp. And has been abandoned for about 20 years. It was now totally dark. The forest looked totally different at night. Mysterious shadows were hiding behind the trees, strange rustlings and the cries of night birds coming from everywhere, branches treacherously snapping under my feet. The full moon was shining, so I decided to save the battery of the flashlight. I'm sure I'll need it sometime soon. The further I moved into the unpleasant thoughts came to my head. I wasn't afraid of the dark at all. I didn't believe in ghosts or other mystical crap. But at the same time, during the last few days, I'd encountered so many incomprehensible phenomena that against my own will, I started to read between the lines of the simplest things. Obviously, I felt exceptionally uneasy in the forest at night. Everywhere I looked, every shadow, every tree or bush looked like a weird creature escaping straight from the horror movies or from Stephen King novels. A branch somewhere seemed to be hand, eager to grab your shoulder, a fallen log, somebody's dead body, someone who failed to get out of the forest. In every gully I saw a bottomless abyss. If I had found myself in this forest under any other circumstances than all these buses and pioneer camps, of course I would still feel uncomfortable. But then I would be able to explain everything with logic and be afraid of nothing, except for owls and mice, of course. Why are you scared of owls? But at the same moment, there was more than enough reasons to fear. Despite all this, I reached the old camp without any adventures. Okay, that is a bit creepy. In a little glade surrounded by trees stood a house resembling a kindergarten. Paint peeled off the walls, almost all the windows were broken. Broken masonry here and there, holes in the roof that looked like those made by bombing. In front of the building was a little garden surrounded by a rusty fence. Apparently it was once a playground with a merry-go-round, swing, slides, and other Soviet attractions. But the time is cruel. All of them were broken and mutilated by corrosion. The grass was so tall that it almost came up to my waist. The moon broke out of behind the clouds and illuminated the old camp. It seemed like everything came back to life. Windows shone with new glass and walls looked like they'd been painted from fresh paint. I heard playful laughter, saw consistent children joyfully running and frolicking in the yard. A strict camp leader on the threshold, holding a basket with ripe apples in her hand, an old cleaning lady taking a nap in the shade. It sent chills down my spine. Of course, my imagination was just playing tricks, but the old camp itself was so similar to all the other post-apocalyptic pictures I'd seen that these visions were no surprise. I stood undecided for a long time before I dared to go further. After all, I'm here to find Shurik. Though I still don't get what he might be doing here, if he even came here. A boot somewhere nearby doesn't mean anything. However, if he were not eaten by wolves, for some reason it seemed like there were no wolves in this forest. This might be the only place where he might be hiding. I carefully crossed the yard, pushing the tall grass apart and trying not to bump into jagged pieces of metal. But I stopped in a doorway, hesitating. An impenetrable, heavy darkness stared back at me from inside. Even the brightest moonlight could not illuminate any object, or even highlight a silhouette. And my head was filled with different thoughts that all said this is it was better for me not to go any further and run away quickly. But I pulled myself together, turned on the flashlight, and stepped over the threshold. Inside the building looked like a typical kindergarten. I still remember my childhood days, and even so, everything here looks very familiar. Sleeping rooms with lines of beds standing close together, a large playroom, toilets, a dining room, a utilities room. Signs of the past children's joys were still everywhere. From time to time, a flashlight drew my attention to a decaying doll, or a plastic toy car, or a punctured rubber ball, or a broken rack of tin toys. There was even a book on a table, faded with age. I flipped through the few pages. It was a story I had read a long time ago, back in my childhood. Something about the war. Enemies destroyed the kindergarten, and all its kids had hidden in a little basement together with a bunch of adults while bombs were exploding above the surface. I don't remember the end of the story, but as far as I remember, nobody died. Looking at the illustrations, all the emotions, fear, sadness, sympathy for the poor children, and a sense of hopelessness which I had experienced while reading this book came over me. And it's strange that under exactly these conditions, right here and now, that I found this book. Probably there is somebody who manages this ongoing story, who writes this scenario for this absurd play, who sues the costumes for the local pioneers, and creates sets like this abandoned camp. To tell the truth, he's very talented. Attention is paid to even the most minor detail. Although this place was abandoned a long time ago, everything here still seems to be untouched. Of course, time does not spare this camp. In so many years, it has often been visited by the locals. A place for young people just hitting puberty. They would drink alcohol, indulge in amorous pleasures, or simply burn everything down just for fun. Electronic mentioned this place is full of legends. Legends of ghosts and devils living here. Take, for example, the story about the camp leader who committed suicide. In my world, nobody would believe that this would could stop somebody. But in this reality, anything is possible. Certainly, the fear doesn't disappear, but I decided that since I'd come here, I was going to have to carry on to the end. The building was small, so it wasn't difficult to search it completely, but I didn't find any sign of Shurik. Maybe I should call out to him. But on the other hand, maybe that's not such a good idea. Frustrated, I sat on the bench in the lobby inside. Ghosts, where are you? I asked the camp, and all of a sudden I noticed a strange depression in the corner. A small trapdoor. An adult would barely be able to squeeze through it. And it seemed to me that it had been recently opened, as the dust was clearly cleared around it. And so here's the part where I need to be scared. So Shurik went somewhere. What might be lurking beneath the trapdoor? A basement? What could he be doing there? I pulled open the hatch and pointed the flashlight into the darkness. There was a ladder going down a couple of meters, ending in a concrete floor. There was a low, narrow corridor disappearing into the darkness. I hesitated for a long moment. On one hand, I had absolutely no desire to go down there. On the other hand, if Shurik isn't really there, I swore loudly and began to descend like, motherfucker! Downstairs, it was so dark that even the flashlight didn't help much. A low ceiling, wires extending along the walls, broken lamps, clad in iron bars. I've seen this all somewhere. I slowly started to move deeper in the dungeon. The path went down, and after a few dozen meters, entered a stairway with high steps. Soon I found myself in the front of a massive metal door. Radiation, of course. There's a sign painted on it. I looked closely and I realized it was a biohazard. A biohazard, even better. No wonder. This whole camp was built after the war. It lasted until the 70s. So it's an ordinary bomb shelter, and there's nothing else to be afraid of. However, those thoughts were made even more scared. I made my decision and opened the door, which immediately shut with a sharp sound. I soon stepped through the doorway. Motherfucker! I shuddered strongly. My hands began to tremble and my vision dimmed. I regained consciousness after a few seconds. Only then did I realize that apparently a strong spring was attached to the door. I found myself in a quite spacious room. In the beam of a flashlight, I could see bunk beds, some cabinets along the walls, and several devices of unknown purpose located in the far corner. It seems like this bomb shelter had never been used. Nobody ever came here. The beds were made, which is strange in itself. I carefully looked around the room several times. The cabinets were filled with gas masks, chemical protective suits, dry rations, various domestic odds and ends. The the devices which I first could determine the purpose for gauges for radiation, air pressure, and temperature. In short, it's a typical bomb shelter. I'd never been to such a place before, but it was how I imagined it. The only thing that remained unexplored was the door at the other end of the room. I pulled the handle, but the door remained closed. If someone recently came down here, and he wasn't found in this room, then it would be logical to assume that he was behind this door. I called out in a whisper, "Shurik?" No reply. Maybe he locked himself out. But why? It was unclear what I should do next. Perhaps it'd be smarter to come back tomorrow with help, but for some reason I had a feeling that behind this door I would find the answers that I couldn't wait to be found. I walked across the room, took a crowbar from the corner. I wedged on the bend of the door and tried to rip it from its hinges. Oddly enough, after a while, I did just that. Fortunately, it wasn't as massive as the previous door. The door gave out and slammed to the floor. I took a deep breath and pointed the flashlight down the passage. A corridor vanished in the darkness. Another corridor. Same as the ones which brought me here. What's with all these corridors? The walls were closing in, my head almost touching the ceiling, but I could not make out the end of the corridor. I walked carefully, looking at the ground. This is the reason that I did not fall in the pit. The hole was about 1.5 meters diameter, and there was earth at the bottom of it instead of concrete. It seemed like the hole was caused by an explosion. It wasn't too deep. I could easily climb out later. After I jumped to the hole, I found myself in something that resembled an old mine. Why? Why a mine? The walls and the ceiling were reinforced with wooden beams, and the tunnel was so long that my flashlight was insufficient. A few minutes later, I found myself at a crossroads. It's too dangerous to go any further. I could get lost. I decided that it'd be a good idea to somehow mark the place from which I would begin my journey into the labyrinth. So I picked up a stone that made quite a big notch in the wall. So, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. It seemed that there was another fork in the road. Oh, son of a bitch. Lefty-loosey. I came to some kind of a miner's camp. Pigs and helmets everywhere. A rusty wagon stood in the corner. All items were so old. They dated from the beginning of the 20th century rather than the middle. So this is really a mine, which means I could wander here for ages without finding a way out. But I sensed the exit was somewhere nearby us, and went further. Another fork in the road. Son of a bitch. Lefty-loosey. Another fork in the road. Lefty-loosey. Another fork in the road. Son of a bitch, lefty-loosey. Another fork in the road. Lefty-loosey. This will take me somewhere eventually. On the last corner, a door appeared from the darkness. It opened and inside was a small room. Nobody was here except Shurik, who sat in the corner. Shurik. He stared at me with eyes full of terror. Ah, don't come near me! Shurik, it's me, Simeon. I won't give up so easily. He grabbed a piece of reinforced bar from behind his back and started just waving it around. Shurik, what's wrong with you? Calm down. First you bring me here, then you take me through this mine, and now you're pretending to be Simeon. He must have been gone completely nuts. Shurik, calm down. Nobody's pretending to be me. I really am me. I tried to talk to him as calmly as I could, but I was almost feeling more nervous than him. Simeon? He squinted. Is that really you? Yes, and now tell me what happened. How did you get here? Shurik recovered his breath and started to talk. I needed some parts for the robot, and I heard that there was a bomb shelter in the old camp, and there came to be some instruments there. So I got up this morning and went. He stopped for a minute, trying to deal with the trembling in his hands. I found suitable parts, but then I read primal fear in his eyes. The voices, they told me to go here. I went down to the mine, and then they were telling me to go to the right, then left, then right, then left, then right, then left. He started to laugh hysterically. But now they won't get me. I'll stay sitting here. They won't find me here. He once again started to wave the pipe in the air. Shurik, there's no one here. I wasted quite a lot of time walking in the mine like you. I didn't hear any voices. He fixed his eyes on me. Then you're with them. Holy shit! Shurik rushed towards me. I was just barely able to dodge him. But the flashlight wasn't as lucky. It took the full force of Shurik's blow. We found ourselves in complete darkness. Now it was my turn to lose my mind. What have you done, you idiot? I lashed out with my hand in the direction which I expected Shirk to be, but to no avail. Now we'll both die here. I got nothing but silence in return, then quiet, hysterical laughter. It's alright. That's fine. I know where the exit is. Follow me. Follow you where? I can't see a damn thing. Follow my voice. I had no other choice. Here. Shirk's voice was heard from somewhere further on. How did you know where to go? I walked over here. Then why didn't you leave? The voices. Quiet. They can hear us. In theory, I could believe that there are some supernatural forces here. In the Slavonic camp, they'd just be a daily occurrence. But there was no reason to panic yet, though my hands were shaking non-stop. Here. I slowly followed his voice and eventually lost track of time. We could have been rolling for a few minutes or a few hours. Finally, a dim light appeared in the distance. We're here. We reached the wall. The way towards freedom was blocked by a lattice on the ceiling. I pulled myself up and recognized a square from the bits of landscape I could see. Lift me up. Shirk obediently followed my request. I started hitting the grate with my fist so hard that just a few seconds my arms were all covered in blood. But in return, the grate gave away and pushed open. A minute later, we were on the surface behind the monument of Jinda. When I saw the grating before, I had no idea that there could be a catacomb below it. They will come for you. I fell to the ground exhausted. Who? They will come. Said Shirk again and ran away. I was so exhausted I could not maybe bother to think about some voices. So recalling the Forsaken camp, the bomb shelter, or the mine. Almost unconscious, I reached the camp leader's cabin, but I couldn't go to bed right away. Look who's here! Olga. I started tiredly, attempting to cut the explanation to a minimum. You said you were going for a walk, but instead... And I was going to call the police, and... Olga, can it wait tomorrow? I'm really tired. The camp leader eyed me all over. Okay, fine. I was a bit surprised that she agreed, but so fast, but decided not to waste the opportunity and quickly turned the lights off and darted under the covers. How did she not see the blood? You said you were covered in blood. Your arms are bloody. Day 5. Fuck's sake. Alright. We're stopping there. Save. Alright, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Trickster out.